Hello everyone, welcome back to the making of my Horace Kephart knife. So here we got the scales, handle, whatever you want to call it, all sanded down. I spent about, I'm going to say a good 3 hours. Like I said, I take a long time, and I try to get it as smooth and beautiful as I can. So I'm really liking them. I made them a little thinner on this end. I didn't like the 3/4. It didn't look good, and it didn't feel good. So I got this to where I like the way it feels. This guard is great. Your hand fits right in there. So we're up to the part now where we're going to put a finish on it. So I'm going to use this True Oil from Birchwood Casey. It's a gunstock finish. It's very durable. It does take a long time in between coats to dry, but we're going to get the first coat on now, and we'll get a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like. So what I like to do is I like to take a rag, kind of get it on my finger there. Okay, then I like to take a clean one and just go down the tang. And there's the first coat. Look at that grain popping through. Beautiful. Alright, so we're going to set this aside. I think it actually takes a good 24 hours for this between coats. Let me see here. Yeah, 24 hours. So for you it's going to just be a couple seconds. For me it's going to be 24 hours. And I'll be back and we'll put some more of this stuff on. Okay, so it's been 24 hours. I just hit this with a little steel wool. Time for the second coat. This one I'm going to put on my fingers. It's coming out beautiful. I think 2 coats is going to be enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry, and in the interim we're going to work on the sheath. So let me put this away, and we'll get set up to start. Alright, so we have a piece of leather here. I also have this wooden replica of the knife, since it's off drying with the oil on it. So I'm going to try something a little different. When I make a holster or a sheath for a knife, usually I'll make it and I'll stitch it together, then I'll put the object in it and I'll wet mold it to the object. The exception to that is if I make like a mag pouch, I'll wet form it first, then I'll sew it together. So I'm going to sort of do a combination of both. I'm going to pre-wet form this, and then I'm going to sew it all together and then do the final wet forming with the actual knife. So I just have a piece of leather here cut out, you know, oversized, and I'm going to just get it wet. This is just regular warm water. I don't know if you can see the bubbles coming up, but that's the water replacing the air between the leather. You don't need to soak it long. Gets very soft. This is I think 6/7 or 7/8 leather. So what we're gonna do is figure out which way we want it to go in. So I'm gonna wear it on the left side. So I'm gonna want this to be on the top. And we want to figure out how far we want the knife to stick out. Say about like that, because I'm going to make a a sheath that has a flap top on it. Let's go with right there. We'll go with right there. That should give me enough to grab it. We're just going to start to wet form this. Sorry if the camera's shaking. Be careful if you have fingernails that you don't press your fingernails in it, because they will leave a mark in the wet leather. So there you go. Just I'll work on that a little bit more, but you get the idea. It'll stay in there, and the more you work it, the finer the detail would be. I'm not going to get it too fine because I just want the basic shape, like I said. Then I can cut it out, and I could, you know, make the rest of it the welting and the back part with the flap that comes over the top. So that'll be the first part, and then we have to let this dry overnight. So a lot of overnight drying stuff. So you get the idea. Just you're gonna press everything in with your fingers and just work it, and it'll take the form of that. Alright, so I'll be back when the knife is dry and when this is dry, and we'll continue on. Alright, so it's been 24 hours and the True Oil dried up great. I used some steel wool, buffed it out to get that. It was a very high gloss. I don't really like that on a knife. So I took it down and I just used some Johnson's Paste Wax. And I don't know if you could see the beautiful sheen on there. It's like glass, all the grain filled in. So it's waterproof now, protected. Overall, I'm very happy with it. Left the blade with a satin sheen. It's not fully sharpened yet. It's decent. You can see. So I think it's a good representation of Kephart's knife, and I'll tell you what, this thing feels really nice in your hand. The pins came out nice. If I ever made another one, which I probably will down the road, I would definitely invest in a different belt sander, because this was pretty tough to get this convex grind on that 4x36. It's not really meant for that, but it came out decent. I'm happy with it. So the last you saw, I wet molded this piece of leather. Came out nice. Still not 100% sure yet what I'm going to be doing with finishing it, but the knife fits in perfectly. So I'm not sure if this little nub here is going to be a problem pulling it out, or if it's going to lock it in. So the next step is I'm going to trim this out. I'm not going to show you me cutting everything and all of that, but I'll bring you along as I do each step. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut this out, and then I'm going to make the welting for it, and we'll see how it goes from there. So again, overall, really happy with it. Feels great, looks great. So let me get this trimmed up, and I'll be back. Okay, so I have this trimmed down, and I have an extra piece here. This is going to become the welting. And if you don't know what the welting is, that's the little piece that's going to go between here and the back that prevents the knife from cutting the threads. So now I'm going to leave this oversized, because after it's glued I'll trim it out. But I need to cut out the shape of the knife in here. So I'll do that and I'll be back. Alright, so I have the welting cut out. And again, I'm doing this a little unconventionally, but hopefully it comes out okay. So now the next thing that I normally do is I dye it, because I found that if I got glue in a place that I didn't get off, the dye wouldn't penetrate into that area. So before I do any gluing, I'm going to dye it. So I have some brown dye. I'm going to give this a shot, and when it dries, I'll bring it back. I'll show you the color, and then I'll show you how I glue it up. Alright, so I have this nice brown dye on here. And the next step is going to be to glue this onto here. And that's going to be done with just plain old contact cement. You put the contact cement on one side, put it on the other side, and you let it dry. And when you touch it and it's not tacky, you can stick them together. So once I have that glued up, I'll be back and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so I have the welting glued in. Came out nice. A little thin down here, but that shouldn't be a problem. And next I'm going to put the snap in here, and I'm going to punch the holes. I usually use a punch that I made for the holes into once it's all glued together, but this time I'm going to use a stitching punch, a hand punch. Get a nice set going all the way around, and then the next part is we'll glue that to the back. So I'll put the snap in and punch the holes, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have the holes punched in and I have the snap put in. Okay, and I just wanted to show you why I use the punch. I normally put just a regular row of holes, either with a drill bit or with a punch that I have, just a regular punch, not like this, a punch I use with a hammer. But for this one, I like the way it looks with the bigger hole. You can still kind of see the holes and the stitching, which you'll see when I'm done. But I'll show you why I did it like this before I put the back on. If you look here, this is cone shaped. So the further it goes in, the bigger the hole gets, okay? So if you look here, this is punched through 3 layers. This is punched through the 2 layers. And then this is a single punch. So it's obviously smaller with a single piece, and then it progressively gets fatter and fatter and fatter, wider the hole. So I don't like that big giant hole, but this hole is pretty good for the thread I'm going to be using. So the next thing I need to do is I need to cut out the back that's going to flip over, and I need to cut out the belt loop. So let me get at that and I'll be back. Okay, so I have the belt loop cut out. This is going to get, let's see, which side do I got here? This gets bent over like this, and then it's going to get glued on and sewed. And then I have the back, which is going to go like this and create the flap. Okay, so I'm going to go attach this to the back, because you have to attach that because it gets sewed. And then we're going to glue this on. And then once this is dried and stitched, we'll trim out the excess. So let me get at that, and I'll be back. Alright, so I have the belt loop attached. You can fit about a good 3-inch belt, 2.5, 3-inch belt in there. So my belt's like, I think it's about 1 1/4. So it's plenty big for, my biggest belt is 2 inches, so it'll fit. And I'm loving the way it came out. So the next step now is to glue the front part onto this, and I'll be back when that's done. Alright, so we have the back with the belt loop glued on. The next thing I'm going to do is extend the holes through the back. I'm just going to do that on my drill press. And then I'm going to stitch it up. And then I'll be back. Alright, so we have the back sewn on. I drilled all the holes, did a saddle stitch all the way around. Came out really nice. All that's left now is trim the edge, do a little sanding, get them all even, trim this off, figure out where this is going to go once the knife is in there, put the snap on, and we'll burnish the edges, and it'll be done. So I made quite a few sheets and holsters and mag pouches, and I'll tell you what, this is right up there with some of my favorites. I always dyed everything black. Pretty much everything I've ever made was black. So I think the fact that this is brown, it's kind of, I don't know, it might be my favorite. And I'm loving the way it's got the shaded areas of the dark in it. So let me get that done and I'll be back and we'll show you how the knife fits. Alright, so the sheath is done. It's been all trimmed up, the snap added, it's been burnished. I sanded the sides, burnished it up. And this just has a little bit of Lexol on it, leather conditioner. Just a little bit, rub it all in, let that dry. Then there's just some neutral shoe wax on it. Some kiwi wax. Give it a little bit of a sheen. So I'm loving this sheath. Fits the knife perfectly. I thought I was going to have to wet mold it again, but I didn't have to. There it goes right in. So there it is. I know it was a little long journey, but I appreciate you all sticking with me on it. Let me know if you'd rather have just one video. You know, I don't know how long it would have been, but I kind of like the short ones. You know, it gives me a little bit of something to look forward to, you know, the next day or two. But if you'd rather have just one long video with the whole project from start to beginning, from beginning to end, just let me know. Next one I do that's going to be lengthy, I might just put the whole thing out. So everyone, again, I appreciate your views. I appreciate your comments. I really appreciate you sticking with me during this project. And I hope you all are having a great day. And we'll see you on the next one.